Ryoma Sukuna is not. Wait, hold on. Actually, let me just play what he said.
Ryoma Sukuna is no longer a top 4 strongest character in the verse, maybe not even a top 5.
Whoa. That is a hook and a half, man. I already watched this, but from when I first heard it, I was like, okay, who's the 4 or 5 he could be talking about, right? I was like, okay. So he's definitely talking about Gojo, right? Look at his freaking profile picture. So Gojo, Yuji, Dabura, Yuta, and I didn't really know the 5th. You're gonna get jump scared by the 5th. I'm not gonna lie. You're gonna get you're gonna get jump scared by the 5th person, okay? Oh damn, I'm not gonna lie. The way I said that, it makes it sound like I'm talking about a certain someone I keep talking about on this channel, right? But whatever. Let's listen to it and just discuss as we continue going. Yeah, whatever.
The 4 characters that I think are guaranteed to be stronger than Sukuna is Gojo,
Okay.
Dabura, Yuji Itadori, and Mahoraga.
Mahoraga, bro. I think this is I can't put this into words. It's like, it's one of those things. Let me actually think about this, right? Because I want to put this. I want to actually like. Let me think. How do I want to say this? Okay, it's one of those things. It's like it's gonna make me sound like a loser. It's gonna make me sound like a nerd loser, whatever. But just imagine, right? You see how I can say a random like moment in JJK and go for it. I've been doing JJK for a long time, so I know a lot about JJK. And then imagine like I start talking about JJK with a casual reader, right? I think I've said this on the channel before. How like it sounds cringe to say it, but I'm not a casual reader, right? Like I'm not a casual JJK reader. I know more about JJK than the more average reader, right? It's like one of those things like imagine you're a super fan, super nerd of JJK, and then you're at school, and then it's like your friends are casual readers and they have like the most casual surface level interpretation of what's going on, and you and like they say shit that sounds really dumb, but you understand how they said it because it's like they don't really understand JJK on the same level as you. Hold on. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, it's like you can understand how they got to it because they're more casual, you know? But the way like I was gonna say this is literally like it's a casual take, right? Saying the Gojo, Dabura, Yuji stuff, I can actually see that. Okay, I can see that. The Gojo stuff obviously is a what's that word? It's a stretch. That's what I meant. The Gojo stuff is a stretch, but the Mahoraga part, that's where it's like, I mean, that's like little kids lunch table talk about JJK, bro. Clearly, but what's frying me is because he's genuinely posting this. Like he is a content creator, so it's not like it's little kids that around like a lunch table. Not little kids. It could be. Let me not say little kids. Like just casual readers around a lunch table, right? It's not. He's not that. He's literally a content creator. He posted this TikTok as a content creator, bro. How? How? And it's not even like, bro, there's also, because I already watched this TikTok, right? There's 2 different levels to it as well, because this take, I say it's a casual reader take because of the he's gonna explain why he thinks all this stuff, and it's because of the reasons. Because it's like how are you even making content on this series if you're saying this stuff? The other side of it would be like those debaters that I'd be talking about who literally have too much time on their hands. They say the most dumb shit ever just to bait random people into joining the Discord and like like slamming them, bro. But yeah, let's just listen to what he says, okay?
The easiest of those to prove is probably Gojo because they fought head to head. And I know, he beat Gojo. We've all heard it. But by no means does that mean he's stronger because he didn't win fair and square. Throughout the fight, he even said it was a 3 versus 1. He stole Megumi's body to perfectly combat Gojo, and then on top of that, he pulled out probably every hack and every binding vow to beat him. And even after all of that, he still needed to catch Gojo off guard after he thought he already won the fight, just to get the final blow. There was a point in the fight where Gojo knocked out Sukuna. If it wasn't for Mahoraga or the Cursed Shadows, he would have died right then and there. Gojo was the stronger character, but narratively.
So you can already see what I'm talking about, okay? And bro, it fries me every single time a Gojo fan says this, bro. I'm gonna replay it.
Mahoraga or there was a point in the fight where Gojo knocked out Sukuna. If it wasn't for Mahoraga or the Cursed Shadows, he would have died right then and there.
So they have the capacity to imagine, oh, if Sukuna didn't have the 10 shadows, then Gojo would have killed him right there, right? They have the capacity, the ability to imagine that. But they don't have the ability to imagine that Sukuna is not going to be in that situation if he doesn't have the 10 shadows. Sukuna is in that situation because of the 10 shadows. Like that was the entire point. Bro, I'm like, bro, it's the same thing with like this. He doesn't say it here, but like it's the exact same thing that not every Gojo fan says, but almost every Gojo fan says, where they're like, oh, wait, let it load. Really? Where they're like, oh, if Sukuna didn't have the 10 shadows here, he would have died. Dude, Sukuna is in this situation because of the 10 shadows. Once again. He's... Yo! They don't have the capacity to just imagine that as well. Why in the world would Sukuna fight the exact same way as he was with the 10 shadows if he didn't have it? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. I gotta think of another, like, I gotta think of another example, maybe on the opposite side so that I can make them understand it. Oh, boom. Gojo fans love to say that, like, oh yeah, Gojo would have killed him right here if Gojo had like killing intent, right? He would have shot a hollow purple at him right here. And it's like, okay, so you can actually imagine Gojo fighting a different way under yes, I guess I could say certain circumstances. So you can imagine Gojo fighting in another way under certain circumstances, but you can't do the same for Sukuna? Like, what are we talking about? It makes no sense to me, bro. I don't know, bro. It's rage bait. It really does.
Gojo was the stronger character, but narratively, Sukuna is the more cunning character. He will do whatever it takes to win, and just because you win doesn't mean you're stronger. The next 3 characters.
Yeah, that's just rage bait, bro. Honestly, it's just rage bait. And he's talking about like narratively and shit, bro. Like, do you wanna know what the narrative says? That Sukuna's stronger. So you don't want to say narratively, bro. It's okay. Chill out.
Characters being Yuji, Dabura, and Mahoraga are a little bit harder to prove being stronger than Sukuna because they take place about 67 years after Sukuna is last seen. I think we can, however, all agree that Yuji is probably stronger than Sukuna, and he's actually probably the strongest character in the verse by the end of the series because, as we all know, narratively it makes sense for main characters to surpass their previous challenges, that being Sukuna. Not to mention, it's shown that Yuji gets exponentially more powerful. The next character, Mahoraga.
What was that? What was that? You see what I'm saying, bro? This is literally like lunchroom table talk. What was that? He said, "Oh, narratively, you know, he should be stronger." I mean, like that does make sense. But he does, like, he literally just says, "Oh, you know, he should be stronger than his past challenges." Huh? What? And then he just literally the second thing he said was, "Oh, he gets exponentially stronger." That's it. That's it. You know, Yuji's stronger. This is the one I actually don't even remember what he said here. This was literally 15 minutes ago, and I completely like tuned it out because I was like, "This is ridiculous." But let's watch.
Was literally fighting at Sukuna's level last time we saw them.
Hold on, chat. I'm trying to see if this guy's live. Why isn't he live, bro? So, anyways. Yeah, so Mahoraga was fighting on the same level as Sukuna last time we saw them. Goodness gracious.
He was fighting toe-to-toe against Gojo. He was fighting alongside Sukuna, and his whole thing is adaptability. He adapted to fight at that level, and then he proceeded to have about 67 more years of continuous growth.
Oh my gosh. You see what I'm saying, bro? He just said Mahoraga had 67 years of continuous growth. Mahoraga! This is what I mean, bro. This is what I mean. You know when people say like people LARP? I think this is a LARPer. This is an actual LARPer, bro. He just said Mahoraga was fighting on Sukuna's level, and then he has 67 years of expansion, continuous growth. First of all, when was Mahoraga summoned after Sukuna? That's the first thing. Second of all, it's every time Mahoraga gets summoned, he's reset. I mean, in a different user, rather. You know what I mean? What the hell are we talking about right now? Bro, like, here's the thing. We know Mahoraga literally fought a limitless plus 6 size user before Gojo, Satoru Gojo. We know that happened. So Mahoraga had an adaptation against them because Mahoraga killed him. And then he fights Gojo and is completely unadapted to Gojo. But I'm supposed to not even I'm supposed to believe. We know for a fact it's not true. It's just I'm shook that he has this interpretation, which is backed by absolutely nothing. It makes no sense. Like, does he think that Mahoraga was training in the Shadow Realm? Like, genuinely, is that what he thinks was happening? Because what do you mean he had continuous growth throughout these years? What? How was he even growing? Who was he fighting? This makes zero sense. This is a LARPer.
And then he fought Dabura, where he grew some more. If he's not stronger than Sukuna by then, I would argue you're a little bit ignorant.
What? What?
The third character, Dabura, is stronger than Sukuna for a couple of reasons. One, as I previously mentioned, continuous narrative growth. It makes sense for the next villain to be stronger than the previous villain, or else things start to seem a little bit redundant.
That doesn't even make sense. This, first of all, this is even the same, like, modulo and regular JJK. Why would they be connected in terms of that, bro? Bro, the villain that we had, wait, Dabura, Dabura, he's not even a villain. Whatever. The first villain in quotations we had in modulo was I'm trying to remember like the first chapters. What happened in the first chapter, bro? Bro, that freaking kidnapper. Like, what are we talking about, bro? He's just yapping, bro. It's gonna be a little bit redundant. It would be redundant if we're using the same characters, bro. It's a completely new cast of characters. What? That doesn't even make sense.
Second of all, he fought Mahoraga head-to-head, and then proceeded to power cliff him. Because the strongest thing about Sukuna is not just his raw brute force or his techniques, it's his adaptability. Within the fight against Mahoraga and anyone else, he's shown to grow exponentially. I mean, he figures out a domain expansion just like that.
Now, saying Dabura is stronger than Sukuna, I don't really care. I really like Dabura as well. But I'm a Sukuna glazer, so I'm going to say no. Alright? And he's not saying any real reasons why, so.
If he is not at the level of Sukuna, if not above it, by the time 6
see,
to 7 years later in the future.
You see, bro, oh my gosh, wait, hold on. this is another reason why I think it's like lunchroom talk, bro. Because it's like, I'm trying to think. I already forgot what he was saying at the beginning of the video. It was the Gojo thing, and then what did he say about Yuji? Yeah. Actually, yes. So he was, bro. I don't think he said a single fact in this video yet. Like, not a single piece of evidence, like backed piece of evidence, yet in this video. That's what I mean by lunchroom talk. You know what I mean? Because a casual wouldn't be able to be like, oh yeah, do you remember this specific moment in this chapter, blah, 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 blah. A casual would be like, yo, like, they would think about it from a broad perspective. Like, what's a good example of this? A good example of this would be like, oh, I think Jogo would beat up Toji, right? Because Jogo is on a whole nother level above Dagon, and Toji only fought Dagon. He was fighting against Megumi, right? That's like a really broad perspective on what's happening. And you would hear it on like a lunchroom table, and they would actually have like a little bit of a conversation around that, right? But someone who actually knows the series, yes, I know it sounds very nerdy, very like, very loserish, they would be like, no, not really, bro. No, right? And they would actually go into like actual scaling and stuff like that. Bro, this guy's he's literally just been saying, narratively, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? It would make sense. Oh, it's gonna be a little bit redundant if not. It kind of sounds like the Kashimo thing I was talking about, last video, where they were like, oh, it doesn't really make sense for Kashimo not to have RCT when he was the strongest of his era, you know? It really makes no sense because, you know, he knows a lot about RCT, blah, blah, blah. Come on, bro. That's nothing, bro. That's lunchroom talk, bro.
I would start to question things.
Yeah,
so there's some very solid reasoning as to why Gojo, Yuji, Mahoraga, and Dabura might all be stronger than a very ancient Sukuna. But Arcage, why'd you say he might not be top 5 then? Well, I'd say he might not be top 5 purely because of Yuto Kotsu. Yuto Kotsu might be stronger.
This is propaganda. Alright, this is propaganda right here. Right? This is propaganda. This is absolute propaganda, bro. He did nothing during Modulo, and we're just like, we're glazing him, okay? I'm gonna just say that, bro. We're glazing him to this level. How dare y'all, bro? He just says
than him, but we also don't see a lot of Yuta in Modulo, and he might actually be the most ambiguous character strength-wise. So you could maybe make the argument, because obviously that exponential growth narratively, but
because obviously the exponential growth narratively, like obviously, guys, obviously. I mean, why don't we just, you know, include Hikari in here as well? Why not? Let's include Hikari in here. Fuck it, right? Because obviously, exponentially, you know, obviously, come on, let's throw Hikari in here, bro. Why not? Let's throw Ino in here. Fuck it. Why not? Because obviously, exponential growth, you know, narratively, obviously, let's throw it in there. All right. Now, I'm gonna reveal the true reason why I started this video. Is to It's to have a video in between the next video, because I saw another Kashimo BS on my feed. All right, so I didn't want to do 2 Kashimo videos in a row. All right, so I'm gonna drop this one, and I'm about to record this Kashimo one right after. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it, chat.